Hello, welcome to the Modern Musclehead Podcast. This is Scott Tousignant of MetabolicMasterpiece.com, along with Bryan Krahn of BryanKrahn.com. Got an interesting question this week from someone following my program right now who's asking, what's the best lifting tempo? That's a question I get quite a bit. It's a topic that I see brought up a lot through social media, so I thought we'd use today's episode to cover what we feel is the best approach when it comes to lifting tempo. And I guess we'll just start off by defining what it is. It's just basically the timing of your reps there. And I think you're going to see, oftentimes you'll see it in numbers. So four numbers, and you'll see four digits there. It might be 3020, and that 3 is eccentric portion of the contraction where you're lowering the weight. The 0 would be the pause, and sometimes you may see that as a 1 second pause, maybe even a 2 second pause in the bottom. The third number is the contraction, and the fourth number would be if you're going to have a pause or no pause at the top of the movement. So that's usually how we break down our rep when it comes to tempo. And we're just going to kind of give our guidelines today of what we feel is the best approach. So, Bryan, do you have a kind of set tempo that you follow? Is tempo something? Is it just another variable in our toolbox that it's great to manipulate from time to time? What's your approach when it comes to lifting tempo?
Some people think it's absolutely minutia. It's not even worth considering. Like, as long as you lift the weight up and lower it, that's all that really matters. And then there's other people who think it's something you got to be very, very particular with and follow these tempo prescriptions, as closely as possible. I'm kind of someone in the middle. Like, it's something that I like to, depending on the context and depending on the client. I mean, there it is. It's all an individual thing. That's how I kind of will use tempo. Like, certain exercises, you change the tempo, you can completely change the feeling of the exercise, which, I mean, does that produce better results? It can certainly increase engagement.
Right.
Okay?
That's a very good word. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, engagement.
So I know when I work with someone like face-to-face, I always steer towards a slower tempo, both eccentric and which is the lowering, and even the concentric, which is when you're lifting the weight, just so they can feel the exercise, so they can actually realize what they're doing. Not to mention it's safer. But there's a tipping point. Like, anything more than 4 at most 5 seconds on a lowering phase, and now it's just not worth it. You're going to have to use loads that are so low, you're not going to create the kind of tension that you're looking for.
Definitely. That's a real good point. And it's oftentimes, depending on what your normal tempo is, you start slowing it down a bit, you're going to have to decrease the weight. And I noticed over the past few years for me, that's been, and it's a topic I've seen come up in the Physique Artist Nation and on my Facebook group there, is that a lot of us have made incredible progress over the past few years by actually lifting lighter. And part of the reason isn't because it's lighter weight that we're lifting, it's just we're under better control. And like you said, that word engagement. But it's only a little bit lighter that we've been lifting. We're not getting dramatic with stuff. You get, like I said, you get too light, and you have to get the longer you're going slower with that negative, the lighter that load's going to be, and you start getting to 10-second negative. I mean, the weight is so light. For me, I've tried it. There was one program I followed that was around an 8 to 10 second negative. I actually got very anxious, like almost having an anxiety panic attack. It's the same reason why I can't do yoga. I find that if I'm holding something or going too slow, I get, I don't know if it's like ADD. I gotta get moving. I can't just go super slow like that. But I think that the word I'm often using with my clients is just control the movement. That's the bottom line. Me personally, I don't, unless I am specifically focused, like this training block, I'm going to focus on a really nice controlled movement where it might be a 4 second negative, and I really want to make sure I'm doing that 4 second negative, or maybe hold that pause in the beginning. For the most part, I'm not even thinking. I'm not counting in my head. I'm just controlling the movement. I just want to feel the tension on the way down. That's the main thing that you're hearing when it comes to lifting tempo is that time under tension.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, certainly like the lowering phase is where I tend to play a little bit more, if you will.
Right.
Like the lifting phase, the concentric phase, I don't see, and certainly not to sound like a research guy, but I haven't seen any evidence to support lifting performing the concentric with a slower tempo. It's always take home rules. You should always lift basically explosively, but under control. Like there's a fine line between being explosive and lifting as fast as you can. The weight will obviously limit how fast you actually go, but there's there's a difference in lifting as fast as you can under control and just freaking flinging it. You can see the way the bar moves and obviously how you feel when you're doing it.
Definitely.
So I try to like lift as explosively as I can, again, under control. And then with the negative, that's where, I don't know, I find that's where I kind of will dabble a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you can definitely change like the experience of the exercise, how it feels, and by playing with that negative. But I mean, like a standard, like a 3-second eccentric, most people, 3 seconds is a long time.
It is it's longer than most people think it is. So you start even adding one more second to like 4 seconds on the way down. That is a long tempo when you really count it out. And I really don't. I mean, I recommend counting it out maybe for the first time to get a feel for it. But I find if I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, 3. Like if I'm counting that and I'm trying to count the reps in my head, like it's too much going on. I want my head in the muscle more than anything and focusing on my form and control rather than seconds. And I know some people get to the point where they got the little metronome or whatever on it. They got it on their freaking phone and it's like counting down. Tick, tick, tick. I'm like, are you freaking serious?
Maybe he's on his way to like piano practice right after the so got his metronome.
Yeah, I'd say that's a bit extreme. There's probably, maybe once in a while, just for shits and giggles.
For your metronome? Are you serious?
Just counting, have or stop. Just have an idea of what it really is. Like have your workout partner start counting down for you or something. But it's a little too precise for my liking.
It's very self-limiting. I mean, like if you're using a significantly heavy weight in a big exercise, let's use an example of a squat or a bench press. If you're using a heavy load for you, so like a high intensity set, you're gonna probably use a slow eccentric because you don't want to staple yourself to the bench or to the floor. So there's a little bit of a the loads often will dictate the tempo, to a certain degree, So I mean, there's a little bit of a common sense factor there.
Yeah, because I see a lot of guys when the loads get heavy,
they slow
and
down.
they don't control it.
Oh,
boom, it's going off their chest, like just bouncing off of them, and then they're like really struggling to get it up there. But also, I mean, the heavier the load, if your protocol says it has a tempo of a 3-second negative, or even a 2-second negative, and a 1-second concentric contraction there, the heavier load. I mean, there's times where because it's so heavy, it's going to take me longer than 1 second to get that way up there, and especially depending on what rep you're at. Like my first rep may go up a little faster than my very last rep. So I think that's the case almost every single time. I think as you get closer to failure on your set, those last few reps are going to be a little bit slower just because the fatigue is kicking in.
Yeah, like with concentric, it's always the intent. Like you should always intend to push it up as explosively as possible within control. Yeah. Now what actually happens? It is gonna slow down, like because you're getting tired, you're running out of gas. But it should always be that intent that that's your goal. Now it doesn't always work out, and certainly in my own training, I've just stopped grinding reps. Like if I know I'm at that point where I'm trying to be explosive and it's slowing down. I used to stop basically when the bar would stop moving. Now I'm kind of like, as I say, I'll keep a rep in a hole. Like I'll just be like, all right, it's slowed down enough. I'm near failure. This is good. And I think that's, I've certainly there's benefits to doing it the other way, going balls out and all that. But from a live to fight another day perspective, especially with a big exercise, I prefer not to be a grinder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and that whole lifting under, I mean, yeah, lifting explosively but under control. Control is a key factor, because I see a lot of people they're thrusting that weight up there, and you can just see it's almost, especially if it's a little bit of a lighter load and they're throwing it up fast, you can just see the tension leaving their muscles. It seems to be a lot more on the joints, and they're throwing it up, or shit, they're curling it up, and it just looks awkward. And then when they're throwing it too fast, it seems to be it's tough to slow it down and control it on the way down, because you're so quick, and you just see, like, I can feel it. I just throwing my arms up there, like my elbows right away feel kind of, you feel that tension in the joint instead of in the muscle where you want to be feeling it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're training for hypertrophy. I mean, strength is a little bit different. I mean, strength, you're going to get that. The goal is to get that weight up, Yeah. But, hypertrophy, that's where you want that tension. And as soon as you sacrifice that, just to move the bar a little bit faster, you're in my personal opinion, you're losing a lot of the benefits. So just by slowing it down just a little, keeping tension on the muscles, still being, explosive, but it's just not quite losing it.
One of the things that we really like to do is, especially when we're lifting a little bit heavier, I mean like around 6 reps or so.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to grind out, like you mentioned there, that last rep there, we'll get that last rep up with good control, and instead of pushing out another one, just really do an extra slow negative on the very last rep. I freaking love that for so many different exercises. Just the very last rep, do a nice slow eccentric contraction, and the feel of that it's just awesome. I think you get more benefit from that than trying to force out that last rep to failure. It's just a way to kind of extend that set safely and get the most bang for their buck from it.
Yeah, I love that with body weight movements like chins and dips, because there's no risk. Like it's lowering as slow as you can, and there's no, there's zero risk. Nothing's gonna fall on you. You're not gonna get pinned. That's just great as a last rep. Yeah.
One of the things I like about a more controlled, slower negative, usually around 3 seconds. I like a nice 3 seconds. Seems to be my kind of sweet spot. Just naturally, and just controlling on the way down, you feel those muscles stretching. And to me, feeling a stretch on the way down, whether it's a bench press or a curl, you feel that tension in the muscle. And I find I get a much better contraction out of it, because my head is in that muscle right now. I feel the focus exactly where I want to feel it. And throwing in a brief little pause in the bottom is just freaking awesome. I think that's the beauty of that, once again, is, like, especially for the bench press, you get it down, that brief little pause just barely above your chest where you're keeping that tension on the muscle. And then it allows me, before I lift, I'll contract the muscles hard. So I'm always contracting that muscle before I actually lift it. And I find that not only does it make the exercise a little bit more, I don't want to say effective, that's probably the wrong word, but the mind-muscle connection with it is just outstanding, and I find it really takes away the joints. It really, really keeps the focus right where you want it to be. So brief little, nice slow negative, controlled negative, brief little pause, boom, explode on the way up after you contract those muscles to begin with.
Yeah, like that's probably my second biggest thing I like about being mindful of the tempo. Like number one is, of course, if you're not feeling an exercise or you just don't have that engagement, like slowing down, certainly the eccentric, that can be extremely helpful. But close second to that would be if you disregard tempo completely, you think, it's just bullshit, it's just minutia. That means you're not, like, you have all this stuff at your disposal, like pauses, like whether like at the top of the concentric range or even at the bottom of the eccentric range, like, bottom, the name escapes me, like a bottom of the squat.
Right.
Or mid-rep pauses. That's probably my favorite thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've done that. Even like Bulgarian split squats. Do a full rep and then do a half rep and hold that down there. Just ridiculous. And you showed me it was the reverse curls. You had that. Oh my freaking God, that was outstanding. Because again, it's more the focus. The focus is just awesome, and all attention. Holy shit. Yeah, love that.
Like whether you go down the line and you see a discernible increase in hypertrophy from doing that, I think you do, because you're creating much more tension, at certain points of the exercise, and it's a little bit of variety, and again, it cranks up engagement. So
definitely,
yeah. So to throw out the whole discussion of tempo because you think it's bullshit or you think it's whatever, I think you're kind of leaving a lot on the table, at least from a hypertrophy perspective.
Yep. Yeah, and the same goes. I mean, we kind of been talking a little bit about like slowing things down and controlling engagement. There's times where I love to pick up that pace a bit. High rep squats. If I'm doing high rep squats or leg presses, I might just keep a smooth flow. You kind of get in that road the zone in, especially with the squats, the high rep squats. It's piston like fashion. But I won't lock out at the top, and I'm not. So I'm going up quick, but I'm not locking out. So I don't feel any of this. I'm still keeping the tension on the joints, and boom at the bottom, boom up. It just, to me, it may feel you got to use a little bit of lighter weight for that because you're doing the higher reps. But the pump, the burn, the focus is just phenomenal. I love it. So I think that kind of stuff has its place, as well as some of the explosive stuff. Again, as you were saying, the super slow eccentric contraction with body weight stuff. I like some explosive contraction with body weight stuff as well, especially for the legs. Like jumping lunges, jumping split squats, jumping squats, frog jumps, all that kind of stuff I like. There's something about, especially when you superset something like that with a leg press or a hack squat. And man, just getting those explosive muscle fibers going is, again, I think you're leaving something on the table if you're not including that kind of stuff in every once in a while as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, I haven't had this in a while, but if someone, asked me for the very best way to build your legs in 8 weeks, the first thing I would ask them would be like, are you doing constant tension, no lockout leg presses for sets of 20, 25 reps?
Oh, dude, awesome.
If you're not if you haven't done that, then you're not truly trying everything that really works. Because I haven't seen anything work better than that.
It's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite, easier on your body too. The pump is sickening, just absolutely sickening with that. It's one of my favorite movements for my leg days.
Just not fun. Not fun.
No, definitely.
There's no fun in there.
There's no doubt about that. Outstanding, man. Well, you got another tip? Anything to?
I'm tipless, homie. That's it.
Tipless. Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it all. Eccentrics, little pauses here and there, changing your tempo. There's definitely something to it. Like you said, it's just another way to add variety as well. Just challenge your body in different ways. Don't get stuck in a rep. Don't get stuck counting exact reps. Just change the control in your head. It doesn't have to be the exact same every single time. Just make sure you're mixing things up from time to time.
Ooh.
Very cool. Awesome. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this show. Again, visit our sites, BryanKrahn.com. Not BryanBryan.com. Go visit Bryan's site, BryanKrahn.com, and then MetabolicMasterpiece.com. If you have any questions, any topics you want to cover in future shows, let us know. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.